The table was set for 12. Turkey browning in the oven, cranberry sauce cooling on the sill, the scent of sage and butter thick enough to taste. I was 72, hands trembling just a little as I placed the good china my mother left me. Then Emily, my sweet granddaughter with the freckles I used to kiss, tugged her mother's sleeve and said, loud enough for the whole room to hear, "Mom says Grandma's just a burden now. Why does she have to be here every year?" The gravy spoon slipped from my fingers and clattered against the bowl. Nobody moved to pick it up. My daughter, Claire, didn't even look at me. She just smoothed Emily's hair and whispered, "Sure honey, that's not nice," as if it were a joke about burnt pie instead of a knife in my chest. The room kept talking. Football scores. Black Friday deals. My heart cracked open right there between the mashed potatoes and the green beans nobody thanked me for. I still remember the first time I held Claire. She was so small I was afraid my rough hands would bruise her. I worked double shifts at the textile mill so she could take ballet and go to college without loans. When her husband left her pregnant with Emily, I sold the lake cabin, my only piece of peace after your grandfather died, just to cover the hospital bills. I never asked for a dime back. I moved them into my house, gave them the big bedroom with the bay window, took the tiny one at the back that smells of mothballs in winter. Every morning I woke at 5 to start coffee before Claire's shift at the bank. I folded tiny socks, wiped crayon off walls, rocked colicky babies so they could sleep. I thought love was supposed to be enough. Years slid by like quiet thieves. Claire met David. Nice enough man, I suppose. He started calling my house our house, the day they moved his golf clubs into the garage. They redid the kitchen, granite counters, stainless steel, all on my dime because Grandma doesn't need the money, she's set for life. I smiled while the contractors tore out the oak cabinets I sanded myself in 1987. I told myself it was for the kids. Then came the little comments. "Mom, you really don't have to cook every night." Translation: "We don't want your food anymore." "Mom, maybe it's time to think about assisted living. The stairs are hard on you." Translation: "We want the house." I'd sit in my little room at night listening to them laugh in the living room that used to be mine, watching shows on the big TV I paid for, eating takeout they ordered while my lasagna cooled under foil in the fridge. The silence in my corner grew heavier than any noise. Last winter the furnace broke. David said, "We can't afford the repair right now, Mom. Maybe just bundle up." I was 72, arthritic, shivering under 3 quilts while they kept the thermostat at 72 for the dog. I paid the $12,000 myself quietly, from the account they didn't know still existed. They never said thank you. Thanksgiving was the last straw. After Emily's words, I excused myself, said I felt a migraine coming. I walked upstairs on legs that didn't want to carry me, closed the door of my small room, and sat on the edge of the bed I'd slept in alone for 15 years. The walls were still pale yellow, the color Claire picked when she was 9. I looked at the framed photo on the dresser, me holding newborn Emily, both of us smiling like the world would always be kind. Something inside me snapped, not loud, not angry, just clean, like ice breaking on the river in March. I opened my laptop for the first time in months. My fingers shook, but they knew what to do. I called my lawyer Margaret, the one who drafted my will 20 years ago when I thought family meant forever. "Margaret," I whispered, "I'm ready to change everything." The next Monday, while they were at work and school, I sat at the kitchen table, the new granite one, and signed the papers. The house went into an irrevocable trust for a women's shelter downtown. My savings, the pension, the life insurance, every cent redirected to scholarships for girls who have no one. Claire and David's names disappeared from the will like chalk wiped off a board. I removed them as beneficiaries on everything that still let me. Then I packed one suitcase. Just clothes, my mother's china teacup, the photo of Emily and me, and the necklace Claire wore on her wedding day, the one I gave her, pearls warm from my own neck. I left the keys on the counter next to a note that said only, "I was never the burden. Your entitlement was." I moved into Willow House, a little senior cottage by the river. 1 bedroom, 1 bath, windows that actually open. The first morning I woke to birds instead of David's alarm blaring through the walls. I made coffee in a pot that was mine alone. The silence tasted like freedom. They came 2 weeks later. I heard David's truck before I saw it, tires spitting gravel like accusations. Claire was crying before she even reached the door. "Mom, what have you done?" The bank called about the mortgage. we can't refinance without your signature. And the lawyer said the will. I stood on my tiny porch in my slippers and robe, coffee warm in my hands. I know what the lawyer said, I answered calm, almost gentle. I was there. David started yelling about lawyers and lawsuits, and after everything we did for you. Claire sobbed, you're breaking up the family. Emily hid behind her mother, confused, clutching that stuffed giraffe I bought her when she was 3. I looked at my daughter, really looked, and felt something loosen inside my chest, like a fist finally opening after decades. Claire, I said, voice steady as the river behind me, I didn't break this family. I just stopped letting it break me. David took a step forward. You'll be sorry. You'll be lonely. You'll need us one day. I smiled, small and sure. I was lonely when I lived with you. Now, for the first time in years, I'm not. I closed the door. Turned the lock I paid for myself. Through the window I watched them stand there a long time, the 3 of them getting smaller and smaller until the truck finally pulled away. Some nights I still miss the weight of a child's head on my shoulder. Some mornings I wake reaching for a little hand that isn't there. But then I step outside and the river is silver with sunrise, and the flowers I planted last spring are blooming red and fierce against the fence. My coffee is hot. My chair is mine. The silence is mine. I learned too late that love is not a debt children owe you. It's a gift you give without keeping score. When they stopped cherishing the gift, I stopped offering it. And in that letting go, I found something they can never take, the quiet, unbreakable dignity of a woman who finally chose herself. If you're listening and your heart is heavy with the same ache, hear me. You are not the burden. Your love was never the problem. Sometimes the bravest thing an old woman can do is close the door, turn the key, and walk toward the sunlight alone, knowing at last that alone does not mean unloved. It only means free.